Hi guys, welcome to my YouTube channel, my very first YouTube. I am so ecstatic. I am so excited at the same time. I'm hoping that you guys are going to enjoy the content in which I provide to you. Just want to let you know it's very raw, very raw and truthful. It's the life of Jay. Thank you so much for tuning in. The life of Jay will have 3 parts. So you like how I did that? A little mole on my finger. 3 parts to it, okay? So this is episode 1 of the life of Jay. Stay tuned. So I decided to do the life of Jay as my first video because I believe a lot of people just don't believe I went through all the things that I've went through, and yet I've accomplished so much in my life. And when I speak to people and I motivate others and I talk inspiration into them, they all say, you never came from the life that you came from. I say, you have no idea who I am. So let's start from the beginning, shall we? I was born and raised in Chicago, Illinois, South Side Chicago. My grandmother was a police officer and my grandfather was an electrician. Growing up in Chicago and my family was different. The first thing you think about of Chicago is the gangs and the violence, and that's what it was. It was, although my grandmother was a police officer and an advocate for the community, promoting Black awareness and being involved with the community, the mayors, the council. I remember going on a lot of parades with her. Crime Stopper CB Patrol. Why, Grandma? Why? Okay, all right, Zen. Grandmother did everything that she could for us. I grew up in a family of 6, but while I was in Chicago, I was the baby. My uncles and my family background were very much involved into the bad side of the atmosphere of Chicago. And although they never subjected us to that type of behavior, that's what I grew up around. Yeah. When I was 3 or 4, my mother moved down to South Florida with my father, and we left my sisters into Chicago. Staying with my mom and being the only child at that time, she was pregnant with my brother. It was difficult. I was a very lonely child. I didn't understand a lot. It was just me and my mom, and my dad worked a lot, or I thought he worked a lot at the time. My mom and dad always got into physical altercations, and to me that's just not an environment that a child should grow up into. I remember waking up in the middle of the night and my father was physically beating up my mother while she was pregnant with my brother. I remember one morning looking at her and she was crying, and her eyes were black, her lips was busted, and I used to be so terrified of him. I was very terrified of him. But at that point in time, I believe that my mother was extremely confused and she became very abusive to me. I remember a lot of instances that my mom would lock me in the dark or in the closet, or because I was little, I didn't help her reconcile or rectify the physical altercation between her and my dad. And I remember one morning I woke up and my dad was there. I heard my mother screaming, and I said, oh my God, I have to do something. I'm terrified of him, but I'm terrified of her even more. So I went in and I remember trying to pull my father off my mother, and he backhanded me. And I flew on the couch. And he said, you need to stay in a child's place. And my mother came and consoled me, and my dad laughed, and she said, you did the right thing. I had a very good relationship, I would like to say, with God, because that's who I used to talk to a lot. I didn't have a lot of friends at that time, and if I did, they couldn't come over, of course, because of all the things that was going on in the house. But I used to just stay up and talk to him, talk to God, talk to Jesus, and Um, I used to see things. Sometimes, it's just scare the hell out of my mom, but, telling her, but learn to come that perhaps I was a prophet at that time. I was a very athletic child. I am very, very athletic. I used to love to run. Basketball was my thing at that particular time. And my sisters had come down from Chicago. So now I finally have people in the house that I could talk to and bother and get on their nerves and so on and so forth. Pretty sure I hate my guts. It was a very trying time. At that time, my mother then had my brother and my other little sister, so we were a family of 5. And it was difficult for her because, again, my dad wasn't always around, but we knew he was our dad. He'd come around and he'd do certain things with us, and then certain times, it was just him or her, and they would have that physical altercation again, and it's stay in the child place. Oh no, you better intervene. And I was really happy that my older sisters were there because I felt like all of that pressure did not have to revolve on me, which was a great thing. Because my dad wasn't always around, my mom would struggle a lot. Here she is taking care of 5 kids, and I remember she was pregnant with my last sibling, which is my younger brother, and she was working a job. We was in a 2-bedroom, 1-bath apartment. Just imagine all those kids in 1 bed. It was hard. I remember the lights being off a lot of times. And in those type of apartments, it was like an apartment. So if your lights got turned off, it's like the whole complex knew, or the whole complex of community knew, So it was embarrassing. I remember my mom used to also ask the neighbors for food. And I didn't understand why. Like, why is she asking the neighbors for food? Like, why we just can't get that from dad? Why she just don't call dad and get the money from dad? Or why she cursing dad out over the phone? Well, maybe she should just comply with what he's saying and maybe he'll give us the money. While my mom was at work, I remember that my sisters, they used to have their boyfriends come over to the house. And I was really close with their boyfriends. I was a tomboy, like seriously a tomboy. And because I used to hang around their boyfriends so much, and they used to come with the baggy pants with the boxers, and I'm like, oh man, that's cool. So I didn't want to wear underwear. I wanted to wear nothing but boxers and have my pants hanging, and that was my image for a very long time. Very, very long time. And then my brother was born, and my life continued like that for a while. My sisters got pregnant at the age of 15 or 14 with my niece and my nephew at the time, very young, and it was because mom was always working, dad wasn't there, and a lot of what has happened in our lifetime, they probably felt the need to be loved. And being that we grew up in a household of you better not, and I don't want to hear about a relationship and this and this. I'm sure they didn't feel, or we all didn't feel the confidence to come to my parent and say, hey mom, I'm interested in this boy. That was like the death of you. But nevertheless, we got through that. They moved out, and again, I ended up being with my mom with my 2 younger siblings. With that, I used to play basketball. I used to cheer, and my mom used to work a lot. My sisters weren't there. And of course, my dad wasn't there either at that particular time. So I used to have to bring them to my basketball games, my cheerleading games, whatever event I had, they had to follow. Even if it was a away game, they had to be on the bus. If you guys want me to participate, I'm sorry, my sister and brother had to follow. I'm pretty sure that people talked about me, but maybe not in my face. What can I do? They had to come. I remember feeling very depressed, no one to really talk to, because they wouldn't understand how I was feeling and all of these emotions inside of me. When I was 15, my mom and dad decided to reconcile whatever problems that they had and move in together with all of us, which I thought was a great thing and not so great, because I'm like, you guys really don't get along, there's probably a bad move, but they've been together ever since after that. I didn't have to carry my sister and brother with me going to my sporting events any longer because, you know, my dad was not having that. It's like, you know, she's too young, she should live her life, and I developed some type of freedom there. But my dad was really strict. I remember that he never let me out of the house unless it was like some type of sporting event. And let me tell you, my dad has 3 sets of families. So my mom is last set of family, which is a family of 6 kids. And my other half siblings was were around the corner. We was very much involved in each other's lives, so I knew who they were. You know, I knew who their mom were. And it was just difficult to go over the house and spend a night. You know, my dad just did not want to release me. And again, in part 2, you'll learn why. But I felt trapped. You know, there goes the depression again. So I started to self-inflict myself because I felt like there's a type of pain that I'm feeling, but I can't show why I'm feeling this type of pain. So maybe I thought that by cutting myself, I can physically see that I was hurt, and maybe the pain would make sense in a way. I know it sounds crazy, but if you ever self-inflicted, then maybe you would understand that process. Yes, it's a psychological thing. Yes, I did have a lot of suicidal thoughts at that time. My childhood was just rough. It was really horrible growing up. Even with me trying to be actively involved in school and try not to go the route that, you know, my siblings went. I wanted to graduate high school. I wanted to go to college. I wanted to be something better than what I was accustomed to. With that being said, in school, I had friends and I had fake friends, and I had some friends that were probably at the drop of a dime will whoop your ass and we'll go to class like nothing. It had nothing to do with them. And I had some friends that just wanted to be around me because I was popular and they would talk about me, I'm pretty sure, but I never got a chance to confront anybody because I probably would have beat their ass. Bitch, okay. I did have a lot of boyfriends. I did. But the crazy thing is I never lost my virginity to anyone. They were in love with Jay. Wanted to be with me. Why not? I was young, I was popular, I didn't take no shit. And I was truthful. I was a very honest person. It was very fun to be around. I remember I used to crack jokes all the time, which I still do to this day. And I used to always make people laugh. That was my thing. I wasn't like the comedian of the bunch. Well, I was the comedian of the bunch, but I wasn't like the comedian of the school. I wouldn't say that I got into a lot of fights because the fights that I got into was really brutal. And that was that anger that was probably maybe being suppressed from home. And they was relentlessly let loose on someone else. Like, I never got in trouble for getting suspended from school for fighting. You know, it was always protect and defend yourself. You know, my family didn't play about that bullying crap. I grew up tomboyish and I would whoop your ass. Without a doubt, without a question. It was what? And that's not something to brag on because as you grow older, you hope to get to a maturity level where you can overlook some type of anger. Although I still have a lot of challenge with that, but it has grown a lot. There was a night when I was 17 years old that my mom and dad got into an altercation at the house, and I was tired. You know, I was really over it. I was so fucking over it. Like, if no one had to witness the violence in someone's house so much out of all the siblings, it was me. And I was just over it. And I was 17 and depressed and was on the boundary of just saying fuck everything. I might as well be a college dropout too. get a job and just get the hell out of here. And I can't remember the argument per se, but I do remember my dad and my mom's face, and I'm just like, you know what, just fuck that, Mom, you know. And it came out like that, and my mom kind of looked like, did she just say fuck her dad? Yes, fuck him, you know. Like, I'm so over this shit. And the next thing I knew, my dad punched me. And when he punched me, bitch, it was on, okay? I'm telling you, I was telling him, I've been waiting for so long to whoop your ass. We was on the floor. We was tussling. We was fighting. And all the while I'm fighting him, my mom is trying to move me away, but while you're moving me away, this nigga is knocking the shit out of me. Like, get the fuck off me. I'm protecting you. You should be jumping his ass. Anyway, the cops were called, and of course, they wanted to know, why did you hit your father? Why are you just being this defiant child and decided to hit your father? Tell me. And I remember gathering some things because I already had in my mind, I'm going to go to my sister's house. Like, I'm not living here anymore. Y'all got me fucked up. And my mom, I said, I asked my mom. Yeah, Mom, why did me and Dad get into this physical altercation? And I remember my mom was like, I don't know. And I said, hey, Mom, so Dad didn't hit you? And she goes, no, he didn't hit me. Wow. I remember just crying and getting my things. But it was a hurt cry. It was a very disappointed cry. Like, how could you? And the police said, do you have somewhere to go? And I said, yes, I do. And they said, be wise that you get your things, you're 17, and maybe just let things cool down for a couple of days. But in my mind, I wasn't fucking coming back, and I wasn't. I ended up staying with my sister. And my sister said, you can live here under one condition: you must finish school. So it was summertime, and I was going to be a senior in high school. And that was probably one of the best years of my life, or best summers of my life, I should say, as being a teenager, because I was free. I was free. I didn't no curfew. I could go anywhere I wanted to go. Date anybody I wanted to date, and have them in the house with you knowing. It was just freedom. But I remember feeling or saying to myself, I need to change. I can't just be here and party like this. And I end up leaving and going to Chicago alone.